The survival kit they sell at the auto counter is built to sell, not to save you. It reassures the person buying it. It will not carry you through one freezing night. Most drivers pack snacks and a phone charger and call it ready. A soldier loads a vehicle the way the army does, for the worst plausible day, not the average one. In the next few minutes, you'll build a 10-item trunk kit. It defeats the cold. It stops the bleeding. It makes you findable when your phone can't. One of these items you burn straight off the car itself. The last one costs pennies, and civilians never think of it. Start with the item nobody expects in a car kit, a combat application tourniquet. The checkout kit hands you a strip of adhesive bandages. Bandages are for paper cuts. They do nothing for a torn artery. Here's the hard truth most people never hear. A major limb wound bleeds you out in under 3 minutes. That's faster than any ambulance in this country can reach you. The military learned this in blood. Extremity bleeding was a leading preventable cause of death in Vietnam. Roughly 7% of the men who died. The Army fielded this exact tourniquet in 2005. Tactical combat casualty care puts massive bleeding first, before the airway, before breathing, because nothing else matters if the blood is already on the ground. Now think about where you get hurt. Highways, roadside, a jack that slips, a blade that skips. The vehicle is where a healthy adult is most likely to bleed badly. A real tourniquet runs about $30. One hand can apply it. You seat it high on the limb. You crank the windlass. You lock it off. The flow stops. Most people believe a crash means you call for help and wait. A trained person controls the bleed in the first 60 seconds, then calls. $30 against your own life. That's the whole calculation. And here's the part that ruins the cheap kit forever. It carries nothing that stops arterial blood. Keep your tourniquet where your hand falls from the driver's seat, not buried under the spare. It only works if you can reach it before you fade, and learn to use it before you ever need it. A tourniquet applied wrong does nothing. You practice on your own leg, off the pressure, until the motion is automatic. High and tight above the wound, never across a joint. You crank until the bright red flow simply stops. It will hurt. Pain is the sound of it working. A dry run in your driveway beats fumbling it in a wreck. I've written up how to keep your family alive when a vehicle strands you, and it's linked up top so you can print it. Next comes warmth, a Mylar thermal blanket. Better still, a reflective bivvy you climb inside. Understand what your car actually is. A metal box with almost no insulation. Once the engine stops, the cabin falls toward the outside air within a few hours. Here's the number that should stop you cold. Roughly 70% of cold-related deaths happen in or around vehicles. Not deep in the mountains. In cars, beside roads, within reach of houses. A cotton blanket drinks up your sweat and quits working. Mylar does the opposite. It reflects up to 90% of the heat your body throws off. NASA engineered the material back in 1964 to survive space. It folds down to the size of a deck of cards. One sheet weighs almost nothing in your hand, and it stacks jobs the way good gear should. You wrap it to hold body heat. You lay it under you to block the cold seat. You hang it in a window as a signal panel with the shiny side facing out. 3 functions from one sheet that costs a few dollars at Walmart. Most drivers bet they'll never sit stranded past dark. The 3-hour shelter line does not care what you bet. Cold is patient. It takes your fingers first, then your judgment. Stack several of these in the glove box and one under each seat. Warmth stops being the thing that quietly finishes you. It becomes the problem you already solved, and know how the cold actually takes you. First comes the shivering, then the fumbling hands and the slow thoughts. By the time you feel warm and sleepy, you're in real danger. That's hypothermia closing the door on you, so you layer up the moment the engine dies, not after you're already cold. You trap the heat while you still have heat to trap. Waiting until you shiver is already waiting too long. Water is boring, right up until you need it. The old survival rule runs in threes: 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. A stranding runs past a single day more often than people think. The Kim family sat in the Oregon snow for 9 days. Most people assume they'll just melt snow if it comes to that. Melting snow with your body heat is a losing trade. You spend more warmth than the water gives back, and eating snow straight drops your core temperature fast. That is exactly backward from what keeps you alive. So you stage the water before the trouble. Sealed emergency pouches ride best. They shrug off freezing and years in the dark. A few gallon jugs work too, rotated now and then. Just never trust the half-empty bottle rolling under your seat. That one has already grown something you don't want. Sealed pouches cost only a few dollars at Walmart or a sporting goods store. They sit in the back and ask nothing of you. They don't leak. They don't expire next month. They wait. Water weighs little against what it buys you. And on the day the jugs are your only clean source for miles, boring becomes the most valuable thing in the trunk. Pack more than you think one person needs. A stranding rarely holds just one person, and dehydration works against your warmth too. A dry body struggles to hold its core temperature. Your blood thickens, your thinking slurs. Most people ration water in a panic and end up worse off. You sip steadily instead, a little and often. If children or pets ride with you, double what you stage. Small bodies lose water and heat far faster than yours does. A real blade earns its place next, not a keychain toy, a full tang fixed blade or a heavy multi-tool. This is the tool your hand reaches for more than any other in the kit. It cuts a jammed seatbelt when the buckle won't release. It strips bark and shaves tinder for a fire. It handles field repairs and opens every stubborn package you packed. It even serves as a last line of defense. Most people carry a thin folding knife with a loose, worn hinge. Then, the moment comes and they try to pry with it. The blade snaps right at the pivot. Now the one tool they had is 2 useless pieces. Here's the train difference. A fixed blade has no pivot, so it has no weak point to break. That is the entire reason it rides in a soldier's kit instead of a folder. $20 to $50 at Harbor Freight or a farm store buys one that outlives the car it's stored in. One tool covering a dozen jobs beats 3 fragile gadgets that each do one, and keep it in the console, not the trunk. When the seatbelt won't let go and water's rising, the knife in the back may as well be at home. Steel that never quits belongs within arm's reach. A good fixed blade does more than cut, too. The pommel breaks a side window when a door jams shut. The spine throws sparks off a ferro rod. You keep the edge sharp with a cheap pocket stone because a dull blade slips and cuts you instead of the rope, and you wipe it dry every so often so cold trunk moisture never rusts it into the sheath. Now write this down. This is the one almost nobody considers. You can burn your own tire to get found. Here is where it gets critical. When you're stranded off the road, being invisible is what kills you, not the cold by itself. Nobody searches for a car they cannot see. Snow buries it. Trees hide it. A burning tire erases that problem in minutes. Rubber burns thick and oily and black. It throws a smoke column that climbs and stands in the sky. You can see it for miles in daylight. And this is not survival theory. The Kim family burned their tires in that Oregon snow to pull rescuers toward them. Their car was finally spotted from the air after 9 days. Picture what that smoke means to a search plane, a signal no pilot can ignore. You roll one tire well clear of the vehicle first. You never burn it against the car. You never sit in the smoke because it's toxic. You light it only once you've decided it's time to be found. One tire burns a long time, far longer than any pile of wood you could gather in the cold, so it gives you 3 things at once: heat through the night, a light in the dark, and a signal that reaches farther than any whistle, mirror, or dead phone. Most survivalists skip this because it feels extreme. Extreme is precisely what you want when you're a gray dot in a white field. Here's the shift most people never make. The car that stranded you is also carrying 4 of the loudest distress signals ever built. You just have to know they were on the vehicle the whole time. One more thing on being seen. In daylight, smoke wins. At night, flame wins. So a burning tire covers you around the clock. Pair it with that mylar sheet laid flat and shiny side up. A search plane catches the flash by day and the fire by dark. You want layers of signal, not a single one. The more ways you say "here I am," the sooner someone answers. Light comes next. A headlamp, not a flashlight. Trouble on the road loves the dark. Most strandings turn dangerous after the sun goes down. A handheld light steals one of your hands the moment you need both. Because you're changing a tire in the cold, you're packing a wound by feel, you're waving down a plow before it passes. A headlamp keeps both hands working and throws the light exactly where your eyes point. Soldiers operate in the dark constantly, so hands-free light is a trained habit, not a comfort. $15 to $30 at Walmart or Harbor Freight buys a good one that lasts. But here's the mistake that kills the whole plan. People store the light with the batteries loaded inside. Months in a freezing trunk and the cells drain flat or corrode the contacts. You reach for it in the emergency and nothing happens. So you carry the spare batteries in a separate little bag, contacts capped. A cheap plastic case keeps them from touching metal and draining. Then the light actually turns on when the night turns on you. One reliable beam beats 3 dead ones. And a lithium set holds its charge in the cold far better than the cheap cells that come packed in the box. And use the light to talk, not just to see. 3 quick flashes, then 3 long, then 3 quick again. That's the signal the whole world knows for help. A headlamp with a red mode saves your night vision between tasks, so your eyes stay sharp in the dark. Even 100 lumens carries a surprising distance across open snow at night. Recovery gear earns the next slot because the most common emergency isn't a crash at all. It's getting stuck. Snow, mud, sand, soft shoulder. A rated toe strap and a way to make traction, and most of these right on the spot. Folding traction boards work well. So does a bag of plain cat litter or sand poured under the drive tires. The grit bites where the tire was only spinning. Most people just mash the gas and spin. That digs the hole deeper by the second. It buries you to the axle and cooks the transmission while it does. A trained driver stops the instant the tires slip, then adds traction, eases off the throttle, and rolls out clean. The Army calls it self-recovery, and every vehicle is expected to carry the means to do it. $10 buys a bag of litter that also weighs down the rear for grip. $40 or $50 covers a strap and a set of boards at a farm or auto store. Weigh that against one tow bill and hours in the cold. A tow truck may take 4 hours in a storm if it comes at all. The gear frees you in 10 minutes. Mobility is the thing that ends the emergency. Everything else in this kit only helps you survive it. A few more tricks buy you traction for free. Your own floor mats shoved under the drive tires bite like boards in a pinch. Letting a little air out of the tires widens the footprint and grips soft ground. Then you fill them at the first station. A cheap folding shovel clears the snow packed around the tires and the tailpipe. Small moves, big difference between stuck and rolling. Here's a trick that looks like pure magic. Your car can start a fire with no flame at all. You need this because your usual fire makers fail exactly when it's coldest. Lighters go stubborn in the cold. Matches quit the moment they're damp. So you carry a backup the vehicle itself powers. A pad of fine steel wool. You touch it across the 2 battery terminals, or you brush it across the metal ends of your jumper cables. Current floods through the thin metal strands, and they glow, then burst into flame in seconds. Here's the physics that makes it work. Fine steel wool has high electrical resistance and almost no mass, so even a small current heats it past its ignition point almost instantly. You drop the burning wool straight into tinder you already gathered. Now you own fire when every normal method just failed you. Most people carry a single lighter and consider the matter closed. One point of failure in freezing wind is how you end up with no fire at all. A veteran carries at least 3 ways to make flame, and one of them runs off the machine you're already sitting inside. A few dollars of steel wool covers it. You keep it bone dry and far from any loose battery, so it never sparks by accident in the bag. Grade 0000, the finest, lights easiest. That's your fire when your hands are numb and the lighter is dead in your fist. No steel wool on you. A 9-volt battery does the same job, its terminals pressed straight into the pad. And prepare your tinder before you make the spark, never after. Dryer lint, a strip of cardboard, a smear of the chapstick from your pocket. The fire lives or dies in the first 10 seconds. You want the nest built and waiting before the wool ever glows. Look at what's on your feet right now. This one is simple, and it turns lethal when you get it wrong. You get stranded in whatever you happen to wear that morning. Dress shoes, sneakers, flip-flops in summer that becomes a cold night. James Kim walked out of that Oregon car in tennis shoes and light clothes. The autopsy found no injury on him at all, only hypothermia. The cold and the wrong footwear finished a healthy man, so you stage real footwear in the trunk and leave it there. Insulated boots, several pairs of thick wool socks. Here's why the material matters. Wet cotton against cold skin pulls heat straight out of your body. Wool holds warmth even when it's damp. Your feet are among the hardest parts of you to rewarm once they go cold. And numb feet end your ability to walk, clear an exhaust pipe, or gather wood. $40 to $60 at a farm or discount store covers boots and socks that live in the back for good. If you only have to step into the snow to clear the tailpipe, you're ready and warm. And if the day ever comes when you truly must move on foot, you won't be walking in the shoes that killed a strong man in the snow. And your feet aren't the only extremity that quits. Stash a wool hat and real gloves in the same bag. You lose serious heat off a bare head, and numb fingers can't work a zipper or crank a windlass. If your clothes got wet, change into the dry layers before you do anything else. Dry and warm keeps you thinking. Wet and cold makes the fatal choices for you. Last one. And civilians never see it coming. A plain condom is one of the finest water carriers you can stash. No lubricant, no color, just the bare latex out of the wrapper. Here's the number that flips it from a joke to a tool. One of them holds well over a quart of water. That's more than many canteens carry. You slip it inside a sock or a shirt sleeve first so the walls can't split under the weight. Then it hauls water from a stream, a ditch, or a pool of snowmelt back to the shelter of your car. Military survival instruction has taught this trick for decades for a plain reason. The thing weighs nothing. It packs into a corner you'd never otherwise use, and it costs pennies. Most people would never in their life connect it to drinking water. That is exactly what makes it perfect. It's the throwaway item that solves the water problem the moment your sealed pouches run dry. And water, remember, is the 3-day line you cannot cross. You boil or treat what you carry back, and you keep moving. Tuck 2 of them deep in the kit and forget they exist. Until the day they're the difference between rationing and refilling. And scale the idea up when you can. A clean trash bag from the same kit lines a box or a backpack and hauls gallons at once. Water treatment tablets, a few dollars a pack, make that ditch water safe to drink. Carry it, treat it, drink it. That's the chain that keeps you past the 3-day line when the pouches are long gone. So there's your trunk. 10 items that beat the cold, stop the bleeding, and put a smoke column in the sky when your phone shows no bars. Food never made the list because food is never the thing that kills you first. I've printed the whole plan into that same guide up top, so it rides with you when the grid doesn't. Now tell me one thing in the comments. What's already in your trunk today?